WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by JW Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. JW Simmons here. The name of the show is We Should Know. I want to thank you for being with us today. Each and every week, we come to you on Star Communications Channel 16, simulcast on WCLN Radio. Our guest this week is all about recreation, all about parks and recreation. Dana Hall, Sampson County Director of Parks and Recreation. Jonathon Allen, City of Clinton Director of Parks and Recreation, or Recreation and Parks. Sometimes I get, is it really important which comes first, or is it both kind of together?
Well, for us, I think it's pretty much both,
pretty much
together here. Yeah.
So I want to thank you for being with us today. One of the things that has kind of been apparent to everybody, I guess, maybe there may be some people hadn't noticed, but we've been in a global pandemic. I'm interested, and it's kind of fascinating the more I read about what you guys do. I'm interested to see what your thinking was a year ago, sometime give or take 2 or 3 weeks to the day, which would put us a year ago, May or June. That's really when the impact of the COVID pandemic hit folks, when all of a sudden we saw things shut down and go away. The business you're in is totally opposite from that. I'll start with you, Dana. What happened, and just tell us how you felt when all this was going on.
Well, for us, we had various staff meetings and various talks with different directors, different agencies, and we were just hoping we were going to wait it out. Mm-hmm. Maybe it wouldn't last, so long. It would be a month or so, and we'd gradually get back. And then obviously that has not been the case. So then we just had to start brainstorming on what we could do, working with the health department and to see what would be safe for people to still do. We didn't want to lose our trust in our current participants or our citizens, but we knew that they still had to have an outlet. But it was just trying to find what was going to be safe for our citizens to do.
Jonathon, it's almost like you would ride through the Royal Lane Park out there and it was like ghost town.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot different. And for us, the parks, the interesting thing is throughout, the parks never closed. The parks throughout the city never closed to anyone. So you could still use the track, you could use the walking areas. The playgrounds, at one point, because it was based upon, like Dana spoke about, was state guidelines, CDC guidelines. At one point, they did basically gave very strict regulations for playgrounds. So we did have to shut the playgrounds down for some time. But we were able to open back up as they did more research and found out more information. But yeah, there was a time where we basically had to close down every program that we had. We did keep the pool open, but we staggered times. We had call-ins that you had to reserve times because of the capacity limits. We had to get very innovative, like we do in recreation, as far as we used the deck and actually took athletic paint and put areas for people to come out to. They could set up, and we did them 6 feet apart. That way everybody on deck was safe. So it was a different time. And one thing I will say about recreation, and Dana, you can chime in too if you would like, but we're very versatile. We always have to adapt to many different situations. That's just the nature of the beast. So I think we were really ready, more so than a lot of other entities, to be able to do that. Because we do it every day.
Right.
So I think that prepared us and put us in position to be able to handle this during that time.
Is adaptability been an issue for your folks, Dana, just trying to adapt to that different environment and let folks, how did you message that to the community? This game is now off. This park, you can't come out and practice anymore. Because of groups and crowds. How did that work for you?
Well, we did some social media campaign, but really with our staff, and I know we had some conversation with Jonathon's staff as well, so we were kind of on the same page. We wanted our citizens to be receiving the same message from both park systems. So from our folks, it was kind of like, what can we do? We have all these ideas of how to make some changes. What can we still do? What's still allowed? What's still safe? So we had some social media campaign. We did a good job with working with the county. Susan and Richard Carr got out the message for us. And then we were actually able to get all of our full-time staff and part-time staff were in the parks working pretty much every day, because we closed down at one time our office setting. So it was fortunate for Parks and Recreation folks. So we had somewhere else that we could be in our office and we could be outside and we could distance and we could still talk to people and tell them what was going on and what was safe, and we could kind of manage our facilities that way.
I want to follow this thread a bit into maybe present day. One of the things I'm reading a lot about with Parks and Recreation, and it's kind of two areas, and I mentioned this before we came on. I was talking with Jonathon. I'm seeing two things that's becoming clearer is the importance of park and recreation as it relates to economic development, being key to oftentimes what people overlook that industry might look at. And the other part is this whole idea as we return, hopefully we're coming out of the pandemic, as we return to that, some folks are seeing you guys as maybe the, should I say, the behavioral health settling ground where people can de-stress, if that's a word that seems like it's been buzzing around a lot. Tell us where the comfort zone for you is with that, and maybe what may not be a comfort zone for you.
Well, I think pretty much for our department, we have been fortunate in recreation in our field altogether, really, is people have really been drawn to us during the pandemic, been drawn to our parks, wanting to get out. And we've seen a lot of people that realize now how important Parks and Recreation is for their wellness, for their mental well-being, and just for their overall health. But we've seen a lot of people, a lot more calls of, can we be in the park? Can we walk? Can we exercise? What can we do? What programs could you offer? We've done a lot of one-on-one phone calls with our participants asking, what are you comfortable with? These are the guidelines that we're following that the state recommended or the CDC recommended, and we're going to be going by this. Are you comfortable with this? And pretty much overwhelmingly, it's been yes. We'll do whatever it takes to get back out and to be able to participate in programs. And so it's really been very positive thing for us and for recreation departments as a whole is people, we really don't have to go out and push our message to them and say, hey, this is what we can do to you for you. We can really, impact your life in this way, in such a positive way. They've really kind of realized it on their own, and they've been contacting us and say, hey, we know what you're doing for us. We appreciate it. We want you to do more. Yeah. So it's been a really positive impact for us.
Definitely. And kind of on those lines, with our park system, people started getting the cooped up or cabin fever. They wanted to get out. And I'd say probably right around June, July last year. So they started calling in about parks and, what can we do? So we let them know, we've got Park A, Part B, Part C. There was people that were not aware of where some of our parks were. So what happened with that is they were able to see where those new parks were, and they were able to go visit those, and now they go and enjoy those parks. So they're being utilized. It's Royal Lane is always going to be the hub. That's just a fact, just because of the size and massive park that it is. But it's actually kind of evened out some of the usage. So, that was the big thing, was people started meeting there. We had groups that, I say groups, but groups of people that were starting to do walks and stuff. So they started meeting out there on their own. And
well, you got, 75, 79 acres in that park, that Royal Lane Park. I mean, that's huge. Is that fully developed? Or is there still development you're looking at to go on there?
We're not looking at fully developing any more land. There's no more land there to develop that the city has.
So you got something.
But we're actually looking at, and we have a master plan that's been done to actually redevelop everything that's there.
Okay. Kind of modernization or rearranging or both?
Both.
Daniel, when I think about Sampson County and the size of Sampson County, and just looking at some of the areas that you cover, you got a geography pattern that you've got to have some great people working for you, or you don't get a lot of sleep at night.
Yeah, it's the size of our county can be a challenge, certainly. But pretty much what we do is we use the school districts, and that's how we divide up the county. So wherever you go to school, whatever high school district you're in, that's pretty much, where we facilitate recreation in your area to try to cut down on the travel time. And then we have a coordinator, which is a staff person that's full-time, that's specific for that school area. So they're kind of their first contact, and then they can call me as their second contact or call our office. And then we're fortunate enough in each area, we have a park that's pretty local to them. Except for in the Midway area, and their closest park would either be Newton Grove, depending on where you live, or in Roseboro. So it is a challenge at times. However, we're fortunate enough to have enough participation and doing some partnerships with the city to be able to provide some distance. We don't have to go quite as far, so the Midway folks don't have to go all the way at Union. A lot of times we play in Clinton there, and then we have enough participation right now where they're just playing at home in their own areas.
Does that give you, extra effort just with moving equipment and those kinds of things, or does each different district have its own equipment and so forth?
Each district has their own equipment. We have a wonderful partnership with the school system, and they allow us to use their facilities. So a lot of times we can house our equipment during that specific season in whatever area they're in, either be it a school or ball fields or a field house. So we really have a working partnership with them to be able to help them maintain their facilities, and they also let us use it as storage as well.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to try to get into this area of understanding that parks and recreation is not just for people maybe 18 or less, and sometimes people get that. But when I look at it and look at some of the things you guys are doing, hey, old guys, young guys, all work together. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're talking about parks and recreation right here in Sampson County and Clinton, and maybe things that you need to know, or maybe things you want to know. We'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home, so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
We Should Know is on there. JW Simmons, your host. We're talking about parks and recreation today. We have with us Jonathon Allen, City of Clinton, Director of Parks and Recreation. Also, we have Dana Hall. Dana, you're Director of Parks and Recreation for Sampson County. Both infused kind of in the sense that you connect with each other. There's a lot of, and I'm going to put a little phrase in here. There's a lot of play in what you do, should I say. But it covers demographic areas of age as well. Oftentimes you look at it and you see a lot of ball fields and those kinds of things. You think, well, this is just sports and stuff. But Jonathon, I know at Royal Lane, you got a building down there. It's just a senior kind of building.
We do. We got, it's a multi-purpose, and we get seniors that come in to walk. We've got youth coming in to play open gym basketball. We've actually partnered with Department of Aging to do a Tai Chi class. They work back there for seniors. So it's got a wide range of different activities we offer, and we're always open to new programs. That's the thing, is you have to be open to listening and seeing what people want. There's one thing we're working on now. The gentleman's going to be coming in to do a Taekwondo class. So there's some things we're trying to get done there. But like you said, there's so many different programs that you can do there, and it lends itself open to that. So if someone has a suggested program that they'd like to see, just give us a call and we'll discuss and see if we can't make it happen.
Dana, I know with the areas you got in the county too, you've got to kind of look at different communities geographically may want something different. I'm sure it's the same way in Clinton, but you have larger geographic areas that you have to look at. Is there enough diversity there that you're able to make that work for each district?
Well, the county is actually just taking a stride to try to address that. So we have actually united Parks and Recreation and the Department of Aging together as one. So that's part of how we're trying to address that issue is to be able to offer programs and to get the word out that it's not just for 18 and under, it's for adults as well. Now, we have always had some athletic programmings that were for 16 and older, and we have adults, whoever's age wants to play, we always try to offer something for them. However, everybody's not into athletics. So where the aging department comes in is we're starting to host some activities that are for all age adults. So we're hoping that that's going to encompass some new programming for some multi-generational programs where grandparents and their children would be able to participate together. So it would be various ages, whoever are comfortable. And then we also have a family caregiver program that's with the Department of Aging that's going to get ready to start some different programs. So if you're a family caregiver, you're caring for someone that needs your care in your family, you'd have a program once a week that you could go to, an activity that would be set aside by one of our specialists that would be able to support you and give you a way to interact with that person. And then they also have a grandparents raising grandchildren, and we would do the same thing with that. So we'd have an after-school activity, some summer camp programs for them that we'd be able to offer where grandparents could interact with their grandchildren and be taught different skills and just be able to really enjoy each other.
There was at one time, some years past, I've had folks on to talk about something called the Senior Games, which was apparently huge in North Carolina. Is that still viable, and is that something that goes on right today?
It is.
It's a competitive thing.
It is competitive. They do. It's actually 3 counties where it's part of Mid-Carolina Senior Games, and it includes Cumberland, Harnett, and Sampson counties. We host, in the city, we host the horseshoes and the shuffleboard, and I know the county does the bocce. So so they put those activities all throughout those counties. So all of the other counties actually host different things at different places. This year, they did a little bit different. Last year, they were canceled because due to COVID. This year, they called it Virtual Senior Games. So what they did is there were some areas that opened up their facilities, and it could be outdoors, but they could basically go there. The seniors could go there, sign up for the activity, go there, and actually they would do their own scores. So they could still participate, but they didn't have people doing scores for them, things like that. And the numbers were down, which is understandable. It's just about comfort level, like we talked about. Some people are more comfortable doing it that way. Some want to do it in person. So it just depends on that individual.
Dana, Jonathon just mentioned something that I wanted to touch on is the impact of virtuality in today's hopefully soon to be post-COVID world. Is that something that you guys utilized a lot as it relates to trying to segue this world of athletics and other things using virtual means? And if the other part of that observation would be, do you see that something going to be part of recreation going forward as opposed to before COVID?
I certainly think it's going to be something that we're going to be seeing for a long time. We were not really prepared or fortunate enough with our connectivity to be able to offer programming throughout the county. We just weren't set up for that. We didn't have the technology in place at the time. However, kind of over the pandemic, we've been able to secure some technology to be able to do that. Like I mentioned before, with the Department of Aging merging with Parks and Recreation, we've received some funding to be able to have laptops to do virtual programming at sites, senior sites throughout the county. So when Angela's teaching a Tai Chi class and she's teaching in Royal Lane, you could go to your local community site and it would be live. It would be on a TV screen where she'd be live, and then she would travel, monthly to different areas, but it wouldn't matter what area you were in because you could see her live. So if you don't have connectivity at your home, you could go to our site and be able to do it.
Wow. That would be, that's tremendous when you think about it. We were talking about grandchildren a while ago before we came on air. And one of the things I think it would be rewarding for folks to know if they couldn't make it to that particular location, they could see their grandchild or whatever playing. That would be a huge plus.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a budget issue to making that happen? Because I know you have to have cameras, you have to have access to get it to the internet, that kind of thing. What's the challenges budget-wise?
For us, it's less of a budget issue as it is actually someone on staff to have that technology background to be able to do it. That could be for us. At the city, that's probably our biggest drawback. We did partner. One thing we did do last year for July 4th, we did fireworks only, but we were able to utilize the local cable channel and actually some of your staff here
Absolutely.
actually helped out with making that a live event, so people could actually be at home if they didn't feel comfortable coming out. They could tune in, and of course it was recorded too, and they could go back and watch it. So that turned out really well. That was a great partnership.
Well, it really, Dana, you meet and reach more people. I mean, I've some small churches that typically tell me they've had like 30, 35 people in their congregation. All of a sudden now have gone virtual and they got 200 or 300. And so does that same theme kind of follow through with recreation?
I really think that we're going to see that moving forward. And like you said, I mean, there are people that can't get out and go to the games, or they have different commitments. So going virtual will be able to allow a lot of different things. So the people that can come in person, I think still will. I mean, we'll still see that. But there are also people that have relatives that are in other states that would like to tune in and, see a game, or tune into a class and participate. And like I said, it's just going to allow for a lot of different opportunities. And I really think, like Jonathon mentioned earlier, that we have a staff that's willing to adapt and are used to adapting. So it's really exciting time just to kind of see what's the next thing we're going to come up with that's really going to work for our citizens.
And I know you guys talk and work together. Is this one of those projects that may somehow create a window of more connectivity between both agencies to bring some of this to fruition?
I think it could actually. It's interesting because I know Dana's part of that too. Through North Carolina Recreation Park Association, we were meeting every Thursday, Tuesday at one time, but they changed the day. And some of the feedback I know she was on those calls and meetings, but one thing that we paid a lot of attention to with the virtual programming was the feedback that people that were already doing it in the bigger cities, just the ones that were able to do it first. A lot of what we heard was that as they were offering more of these classes, and as time went, the interest level or participation kind of dwindled some, not all the way, but some. And you would expect that over time. But it was interesting to see that. But I think it could offer some opportunities for partnerships with that. Absolutely.
Certainly.
And that budget piece always is looming in the background. And I think that's the piece everybody's been wrestling with, not only in North Carolina, but in the local governments and so forth. There's where is the best place to spend their money? And I'm just wondering, would that be a hard sell to the governance bodies in the city and the county to say, look, we need 50 more cameras at ball fields throughout Sampson County, or we need a way to upstream or that kind of thing. And I know there's a huge effort with Star Communications to get that fiber out there, and they're doing a great job with it. So I think that helps with that component. Is that something you see as a challenge as well?
It is for one thing that we've been fortunate with the city. We were able to receive some of the CARES Act funds and some of that the monies that were funneled through from the government, and like you mentioned, the fiber is coming out to Royal Lane, and Star's working on that, and that's going to be making a big difference. They're looking at doing there, and then the Sampson Center as well in that park. So with that, basically the whole city is going to have fiber at that point.
Well, we're going to take another break, and we'll come back and talk a bit more about some of the, should I say, intricacies of the Department of Recreation and Parks and those things related to leisure activities in the county. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll come back and talk with Dana Hall and Jonathon Allen about your leisure time, recreation, parks, other activities. Stay tuned.
At home or away, knowing who is at your door is priceless. Star Communications is here to help with its doorbell security camera by Skybell. Live viewing and two-way audio equips you with the ability to always see and greet anyone that shows up at your door. If this is the kind of confidence you are looking for, call Star Communications today at 1-800-706-6538 to learn more about this intelligent security that you can always depend on.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. JW Simmons, your host. The name of the show is We Should Know, which begs the answer to that question, what should we know? And today, we feel like you might want to know a bit more about parks and recreation. And two people that know as much about that as anybody I know is Dana Hall and Jonathon Allen, Sampson County, City of Clinton. You guys have been in this business for a while. You've seen a lot of things going on. And Dana, I know you got a lot of moving parts. I know Jonathon has. Both of you have tremendous academic and experience backgrounds. We're fortunate to have you in this area to work with us. I want to kind of get into the conversation about the needs that may be oftentimes unforeseen needs that could be beneficial for you. One of the things, Dana, you mentioned earlier, which it strikes me as a great asset, is the connectivity you have with schools. Mm-hmm. But typically, when you look at media, quite often you see funding for schools, which when I have some of our legislators on, they're very quick to tell me that a huge chunk of the state budget is gobbled up by education to start with.
Oh, yeah.
So where does recreation fit in that? And what are some of the nuances folks need to understand about the things that you might need?
Well, I think, like we mentioned earlier, the partnership with the schools, and we try to meet regularly with the school system just to try to figure out where we're overlapping, mm-hmm. what the school's providing. A lot of times they provide the facility, and we try to help whenever we're talking about athletic equipment or different equipment that can be put in facilities. But honestly, it just comes down to the size of our county. It's so large to be able to provide facilities and activities. It just comes down to what we can do that's going to be quality. And sometimes that really makes an impact on folks that are wanting more activities, more programs, and we honestly we don't have the money or we don't have the staff to provide those programs because at some point it becomes more about quality than about quantity. Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned earlier, I said, is the sheer size of our county. It really just comes down to that becomes a major issue as far as funding goes, is we would love to provide more activities, more programming, but unless there's a partnership that we can look into when it comes down to staff, we just don't have any more staff to give. They're giving all they can, mm-hmm. And we don't want to diminish any of the quality of our services.
Jonathon, you've got obviously the largest concentration of people in one kind of area here, and what are you getting from? Because those concentrations of people, oftentimes if you got houses beside of you and one in front of you, you got to go somewhere if you need to run 4 or 5 miles. Right. Somebody might not want to do that on the street, or if you want to hit a baseball, you don't want to go through your neighbor's window. So it's almost a must kind of thing for you.
It is. And I think it's the biggest word is balance. We have to balance what the public expects and wants and what we can provide as when it comes to quality, and also what we can do to make their lives better. And that plays into our facilities. And so we partner with different groups to, like Dana was talking about. Again, I'll bring back Angela. We do Department of Aging. There's a group that we utilize there's different community groups that do cleanup days and stuff like that. So the next step is getting that information out so people can help. Mm-hmm. And stuff, just like July is Parks and Recreation Month. So that's a great time that we do try to do some outreach and get some information out and just celebrate our park system and have people come out and enjoy that time. But like I said, we do a lot of different groups that we work with, from schools to individual groups. We also, like we were talking about earlier, with programming, we do partnerships with that. So we would bring in a contractor, basically, or contract out a person to do it, because we don't have the number of staff to be able to do those things. We also utilize staff we have. For example, at the pool for swimming lessons, we actually train them to do swimming lessons. So they're actually our instructors. So they get in the pool. It also helps us with public relations when it comes to the parents, because they get to know the lifeguards. So they build that trust with them. And so it's more than them just coming to the pool. It's okay, well, Paul is being a lifeguard, and my son goes to the swimming lessons, and they get to know each other really well, because a lot of it's one-on-one. So.
You mentioned an important piece, and I wanted to touch on that. Thanks for bringing it up, and that's the idea of water sports and activities. I mean, the weather like we're experiencing now as we're doing this show is ideal time. People are looking at getting into water sports. Does the county share pool activities? Does the county have pools that are available through the county recreation in different parts of the county, or is most of the pool activities located in Clinton?
Yeah, pretty much throughout our county, unless it's a private pool or a community pool, Royal Lane's the only public access that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that's true. And like I said, we're getting a lot of people wanting to come out. We're anticipating that, because we actually open up on Saturday. So we get a lot of people and interest levels coming in, wanting to utilize it, from daycares to, like we talked about, swim lessons. We're doing a water aerobics class. So we are trying to expand what we do, and you have one pool to do it in, which can be tough, and everything. So
we did a piece sometime back on the Mountain to Sea Trail, and I know there was some discussion at that time that was an important part that the state was doing, that would highlight recreation and parks in counties that trail went through. And we got a pretty good stretch of that going through Sampson County. Has that something that's kind of died down a little bit, or do you still see people using that trail, or just kind of give me what current status is? Because in fact, Ed Collsey and Susan and I walked part of that trail just kind of to highlight it. But the interesting thing, when I looked at that, I thought, wow, this is dynamic, because you got all these folks, and then for a short period of time, it seemed that I would see people that clearly was walking that trail. These are folks that, some people say, well, they need something else to do, but I mean, there's people that do that, so they were walking the trail. And I'm wondering how that added, or if it added, a key benefit to recreation.
Well, I think during the pandemic, we really saw it a lot more, because that was an activity you could do where you didn't have to interact with a lot of other people.
Right.
So they could take day hikes. And so our park in Roseburg saw a lot of use from that. People would take day hikes, and then they could go off route just a little bit and go into our park and, have a bag lunch, or, take a break. And then the town of Roseburg was able to, to see some influx from that. And unfortunately, during the pandemic, a lot of our businesses were closed or operating on different hours. But I think, as a whole for our county, that's been giving us a good impact. And I think moving forward with our trail systems or our greenways, or what our plan is for the future, is going to have to include that. That's going to be a good way to bring folks into our county.
Jonathon, those kinds of programs, sometimes they don't come right through Clinton, but they also have sometimes impacts on Clinton. And I'm thinking in terms of the bike thing that was done some years ago, when we had 200 or 300 or more bikers coming through, and it looked like Tent City at the Civic Center. And I stood there and thought, wow, look at all these people. And of course, Ray Jordan talked about the importance of that as related to economic development, because people were staying in hotels and were spending money and that kind of thing. Is there a way to engage more of those kinds of activities?
Especially partnerships, getting everybody on the same page. In fact, from the county, when they have something going on, like the bike thing you were talking about, basically they reach out to the individual towns that it's going through too. And so that lets us know what's going on. I think one thing we can do in going forward is probably get together and really go after some of those events. That's one thing we could do to bring some of those things in.
That seems to be, Dana, a significant way that agritourism and some of these other things that's going on in the county now could highlight their business as well, as through this partnership idea that both you guys have talked about. Is kind of that partner thing to get people aware of, better see, understand, and virtuality can also be a piece of that, where they look for those kinds of things. I'm just hoping that in the future that connectivity that you guys talk about will grow even greater in these rural areas. So what are we thinking, and what are we doing when we come back from break in just a minute here? I want to kind of get into some of the detailed things that you're doing now, because if we don't talk a bit about ball games and who's playing and when they're playing and what may be happening the 4th of July, then, we're probably, somebody's going to say, well, you talked about this whole show and you didn't really get into a lot of the big things you do. So I'd like to kind of get into that a bit. So let's kind of, hold that. But as we get ready to go to break, just a very quick question, and that is budget-wise. How does the budget look? Does it look good? Obviously, you always want better. Yes or no, and then we're going to go to break. Budget good?
Budget's looking good.
Very much better than we anticipated.
Right.
Much better.
Sounds great. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the details of what's going on. And for folks that are listening, they want to hear from you when that ball game's coming up, and is it going to be like it was last year? And can I get, do I need to get a ticket, or how much does the pool cost? Is it $50 right on for in town and $100 out? The details. So we're going to try to get into the details when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us. We're coming up on our last segment here on We Should Know. We're talking about parks and recreation stuff, and a lot of things I know that we didn't cover that you want to hear about, but we're going to give you some phone numbers. We'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of life.
Welcome back, folks. We Should Know is on the air. We're coming up on our last segment. Want to remind you, you can reach us by just simply emailing us at weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. Always look forward to your comments about shows we've had, suggestions about upcoming shows, people that you would like to hear from, voices you would like to hear from, people you would like to see, content that maybe we hadn't imagined or thought about. Those ideas come from you, and we're so appreciative of that. Also, you can drop us a quick message to Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. If you're from this area, it's Clinton. If you're not from this area, you probably would say Clinton, but it's 28328 is the zip code. And just send it to We Should Know. So we're talking today about recreation. We've talked about a lot of things, guys, but on this last segment, I want to try to get into the things that people, when they hear it, oftentimes, they'll hear parks and recreation, but they'll see softball games. They'll see football games. They'll see soccer games. And there, there may be shuffleboard and this kind of thing with seniors, but a lot of times it's tied around that. Are those games, and does your schedule in your mind right now say we're going to be able to go full speed from May forward with those games?
I think so. I think everything is looking really good to opening back up. Our talks with, like I said, the health department, everything is looking good. We try not to put any more restrictions than what the state recommends. They're the health professionals, and that's what we try to go with. So right now, our baseball and softball is pretty much going just as normal. We have open air dugouts, so there's no enclosed area there. pretty much our bathroom facilities are one in, one out anyway. So that's kind of how we operate there. There's plenty of space within our parks to maintain a safe social distance. But for the majority of folks, things look, if you were to go out today to a game, things look pretty much back to normal. Moving forward in the summer, that's what we're looking forward to. Hoping to start a basketball program up this summer. That'll be a little bit different as far as what the state guidance is. If they come back a little bit from their guidance, we may be able to do it without mask. If not, we'll be doing it with mask.
Jonathan, one of the things that strikes me is we're talking about this, the basketball games obviously typically are inside, not necessarily got to be, but typically they are. And the mask thing kind of gets a little bit confusing as it relates to if you've been fully vaccinated, you don't have to have a mask if you're inside. However, how do you know that as directors and people that are supposed to be kind of controlling it? I mean, there's not necessarily a way that you can scan somebody and say, you forgot your mask because you hadn't been vaccinated. How do you get through that? And I think the CDC and the state has given some guidance, as you said, Dana, but it's a little bit disconcerting if you're in a crowd of people and you look around and you're a person that's really concerned and maybe even have a phobia now.
Right.
And all of a sudden somebody's sitting here, screaming at a ball game and they're right in your ear and you have no idea who this person is. How do you look at dealing with that?
Well, first thing we do is it's still recommended. It's not required. So when people come in, there are some people that want to come in, that come into the facilities and wear their masks, and we're not. That's fine. We're going to be very vigilant. We're going to be respectful of everyone in the facility, and just try to work through what we can. That's the best way I can describe it. But they're according to the state mandates and CDC right now, like you said, it's if you're fully vaccinated, then you don't have to wear it. It's not required to wear it. Fortunately for us, what we have seen is a lot of people are still wearing it. So we really haven't had to kind of cross that bridge, so to speak, yet. But we're playing it by comfort levels. Is really the way we're doing it. But and our numbers still haven't fully come back up when it comes to participation in facilities. So that the indoor facilities are the biggest thing. The outdoor facilities, they can spread out a little bit more. So it's not as much of an issue there as it is with the indoor facilities.
I want to kind of lead in back to this kind of behavioral health thing a bit. The sports itself, when I think about baseball, when I think about soccer, when I think about whatever game it may be, seems to historically have been something that teaches folks, especially children, not only structure, but team play, working with others, and those kinds of things. Again, given where we've been and where we're headed, do we have a need to kind of help parents understand that it's time for them to kind of be the role models for some of this? Because I'm sure you've seen sometimes folks get a little bit too aggressive at some games. I think we all have. So can you speak to that for us? And what do you want to say to folks?
Well, I would say it is time for us all as adults to step up, as role models and to teach our kids, what really the cause and effect of what you do is. And so a lot of our sports, that's what that teaches, is there's a cause and effect of, what you do and what happens. And so whenever we have spectators, it's kind of a teachable moment there, as there's a cause and effect as well. But I really think it starts with us first, because the first interaction with sports or any kind of programming activity is typically with Parks and Recreation, and then it carries on to the schools. So whatever we allow then they think that is allowed at the schools as well. So we really have a lot on our shoulders as far as how we start that training, as far as parents and children. So I would just say, if you're a parent or you're a spectator and you're coming out to the games, that you can just remember that the 5-year-old is probably not going to remember who won their game, but they're going to remember their mom and dad having to get called down by another adult, or they can remember being embarrassed at the game. Those are things that you really don't want to be a highlight in your child's memory. So you always want them to think of you in a positive way, as they were proud of their parent or their grandparent or anybody that came to see them, that it was a proud moment for them.
Well said. And Jonathon, I think the key word that I kept hearing coming out there is the sense of tolerance. And I know that you've probably faced some of those issues. It's not a comfortable feeling, is it?
No, it's not. Those are some very tough discussions that you have to have with parents and sometimes coaches. And a lot of times it'll turn out okay, but they're just tough sometimes. And so what I would ask is that don't put us in that position to do so.
Right.
Again, be a role model. And go by the core values of the department.
I want to allow as much time, because we're coming up kind of closing on the show here, I want to allow as much time as we can to get things in that we might have missed. And obviously there's a lot of stuff we've missed today. And I'll start with you, Dana. What do you really want people to know? I know you want them to know the telephone number and maybe the website. You can go ahead and give that information. But then if there are other things that folks need to be aware of, and more than that too, if folks want to volunteer, is that something you need? So I'll start with you and then we'll segue with John.
Oh, certainly. So right now we're right in the middle of our baseball, softball season. We started a little bit late because we added in soccer this year because we couldn't use indoor facilities. So if you want to catch a game, the best way to see what's on the schedule for tonight is to go to our website, and that's scpr.recdesk.com. Or you can give us a call at 299-0924. So pretty much every Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday night to the week, you could catch a game somewhere in the county. We're getting ready. Tonight's our first practices for our 13, 15-year-old leagues. We have 4 teams in baseball this year and 3 in softball, so we're looking forward to starting that. We've got some good coaches. We've got some retiree coaches coming back to help with some of these youth, so we're really excited about that. We're looking forward to the summer. Like I said, our basketball program is going to be starting in July. We're looking forward to that, and we're also looking for some adult opportunities that are getting ready to come up. Looking forward to late July and August starting some exercise classes in some of our gyms throughout the county. So for more information, just kind of look forward for that on our website. That's going to be coming up, and those are going to be drop-in classes. Okay. So you don't have to sign up and make a commitment. You can drop in to one of the classes and pay as you go.
Outstanding. John?
Same stuff. We have our Quick Scores websites that we actually put all of our athletic programs on. And you can go to that by going to the city's website and going onto the recreation page and just click on the link. That'll take you right to it. We got the summer, of course. We got the pool coming open. It actually opens on Saturday. Public hours are from 1 to 6. And we'll start opening on weekdays as soon as school gets out. So they'll start doing that. Again, we also have the swimming lessons, it's $35 per session. Each session is 6 classes. So it's a pretty good deal. And we also have order aerobics, $3 per class. Again, you can go on our Facebook page for all of that information. And it's just under Clinton Recreation and Parks Department. As always, you can call the office at 299-4906. For that information. And the final thing is we are going before cancel Tuesday night with our citywide comprehensive Parks and Recreation Master Plan that, of course, was interrupted by COVID, unfortunately. But it's coming forward, and we look forward to starting implementation of that, and it brings together a lot of the things we talked about today. So.
Sounds good. And it's been great having you guys here today. I think a lot of things that's going on now, we all need to kind of chill out and have a Coke or something and set at the game and watch the children play. Or, as you pointed out, Dana, if you've got a background in sports and you want to coach or participate, just reach out to you guys and make that happen. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for the information. Look forward to having you back soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. We also look forward to seeing you again next week right here. And as always, when we close the show, we sincerely say, may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host JW Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.